I heard the mailman approach my office door half an hour earlier than usual. He didn't sound right. His footsteps fell more heavily, jauntily, and he whistled. A new guy. He whistled his way to my front door, then fell silent for a moment.
Hello there, everybody,
then he laughed.
and welcome
Then he knocked.
to the Brony Bookclub, Episode 2. This week we have, for the first time, my hopefully regular co-host, Sam.
Hi.
And we have our guest, Psychic Scuba Diver, the author of The Dresden Fillies, both Strange Friends and False Masks, as well as another fic called Order and Chaos that is very, very good. The theme this week, in line with The Dresden Fillies, will be Type A crossovers, which I'll go over in a little bit. First, just a little warning, we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, so if there's something my editing can't fix on this, just please bear with us. We're trying to find someone who actually knows how to edit audio. So, first off, we're going to start off the show just like last week. Co-host and guest will answer some questions. So, first off, Sam, what tag do you see on a fanfic that will pretty much guarantee you're going to read it?
Well, there are two main kinds that I really like. One is just kind of the normal ones, the episodic ones. I really like being able to read a fan fiction and then afterwards think to myself, you know what, that actually could have been an episode of the show. You know, it had the same style of writing and all that stuff, and I really enjoy a fan fiction that feels as though it could just be a part of the show. And then I'm also not a fan of grimdark, but the darker ones that take a bit of a darker and more mature tone on a question. I mean, there's a lot of interesting basis in the show for some interesting mythology and such that's a little tough to explore within the original innocence of the show. And I think the fan fiction that can be appropriate can explore that pretty well. So I enjoy those as well. So yeah, mostly normal and dark, I guess.
All right. What about you, Psychic?
Well, I really like comedy. I mean, I'm usually looking for a laugh when I read it, but adventure would be a big one, too. I really like anything that does a lot of world building, either inside or outside of Equestria, that kind of focuses on their system of magic, pretty much everything that's out there.
All right. This another one for both of you, starting with Sam. What tag will you see on a fanfic that'll pretty much guarantee you're not even going to touch it?
There are two main ones for me. The first being grimdark, especially once it starts getting into the gore fic section, and the other being shipping. At least the really explicit shipping. I mean, I guess for me, it's just a lot of the allure of the show to me was its rather refreshing, innocent nature. I mean, we tend to watch less and less as we grow older. That is as just kind of fresh and young as this show is. And so I think, as I said before, I can appreciate a bit of a darker tone, but when it starts getting into something as mature as explicit grimdark or shipping fics, that's kind of a line for me, I guess. It kind of ruins the spirit of the show for me. So, yeah, those two I'll generally stay pretty far away from.
Well, grimdark is, well, not all grimdark, but anything that has gore in it, if it gets graphic, not really interested in it. Though another one really is anything that's just marked. I don't mind if the story has, sad elements to it, but usually something that's nothing but sad, not really something I'm looking for.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you there. A lot of sad fics just seem the same, and it's like, this isn't what I want to read in a fanfic.
Yeah, well, and, in general, there's got to be a reason for all the sadness. The ones that just try and make you sad for no good reason just don't work.
Yeah. For Psychic, how did you get the idea for your story, The Dresden Fillies?
Well, not really sure for that one. I just started reading fan fiction. I just kind of knew I had to do it. I don't know why, don't really know how the idea first got into my head, but I'm like, Dresden needs to meet its ponies. This needs to happen.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to make sure, I don't have an audio clip to prove it, but I just need to, I'm going to trust your word here. You're not Jim Butcher, are you? Because the first thought I had, and the thought I keep having when I read the Dresden Fillies.
A lot of people have said that.
Yeah, I'm like, is Jim Butcher actually a brony? And he's just hiding behind a synonym to get us, because your Dresden narration is pretty much perfect. It's completely spot on for the character. And I'm just reading going, this has to be Jim Butcher, but apparently it's not, you're not. I mean, I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a southern twang to his accent. Another one, Psychic.
He does live in Missouri.
Oh, does he? Oh, okay.
Oh, really? Huh.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite aspect of your own story?
He lives in Missouri.
Huh.
Well, honestly, it would have to be the humor. Sometimes, I know I'm giving myself a lot of credit, but sometimes I'll just sit there and laugh at some of the jokes I've written in there, even if nobody else finds them funny.
Yeah, see, I could definitely say I've had those kind of moments before. And you deserve it. I mean, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I was actually about to say, you definitely deserve to laugh at some of your own jokes on this one. There's some great moments.
All right. What advice do you have for any pony listening who really wants to write fan fiction but isn't really sure how they should start?
Well, honestly, I would say get a good editor, because I would be completely lost without mine. Believe me, anybody who saw the first 2 chapters of the original Strange Friends, they weren't that good. I was going to say, he's really pulled my ass out of fire more than once.
Yeah, I can definitely say that is a good advice. Now, last one is for both of you. Who are your favorite professional authors?
Was that me first again?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh boy, man. Strangely enough, it's been a while since I've thought about this question a lot. One I'd have to say would be Frank Herbert, the man that wrote the Dune books. I mean, mainly just because I feel like a lot of stories that focus on their world, this big fictional fan fiction world that they made, tend to get a little in the details to the point where it ruins the pacing of the story. But Herbert, in my opinion, did a pretty brilliant job making it so that the development of the world was directly tied into the story, so that you were never leaving one element to go focus on another. It just all flowed into itself. I thought that was pretty great. And I'd say the other favorite author of mine would be Ted Decker. He writes thrillers mostly, and just generally I have a great appreciation for books that enrapture me as much that I can't put them down at all, and that it's just a painful process to need to stop reading them for a little while, and his have done that to me quite a bit.
It's funny you mentioned that. My dad gave me a Dune book for Christmas a couple of years ago, but I'm pretty sure it's not the first one, so I keep looking. I'm like, I'd like to read this series, but I really don't want to start in the middle.
Yeah, you would want to start at the beginning, because, I mean, Frank Herbert wrote a good few of them. They weren't as good after the first one, but were still pretty good, and then his son actually took over after that, so you'd want to make sure you find the first one.
Yeah.
It's really good.
And you, Psychic? Who are your favorite authors?
Definitely Jim Butcher. People say I can write like him, and I am firmly convinced that's because I've read everything he's written at least 3 times.
Actually, it's funny you say it, because actually, now I think I have read every single book he's written at least twice. Yeah.
Yeah. I figure at some point the character of Dresden just became part of my imagination. I mean, that's the way I can imagine I write him.
All right, so next up we're going to discuss what the heck is a Type A crossover. It's kind of I did kind of make up the term, but to kind of explain for the show, a Type A crossover is a crossover where neither of the universes are injured or changed, at least not too much, where you just say, all right, there's these 2 universes from these 2 series, and for the purposes of this story, they actually happen in somewhat the same universe or multiverse or something like that. So you don't actually change either canon or mythos or anything in order to make the crossover work, which is what you did with the Dresden Phillies. All you just say is, well, Equestria just happens to be another world connected to Earth via the Never Never, which isn't that hard to believe.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you guys feel about those kind of crossovers? Opposed to which next week the theme is going to be Type B crossovers, which really quick is just you take one series and then you have another series interact that one's plot, which is a huge. I think it's like 80% of pony crossovers is just that. But with Type A crossovers, how do you guys feel about those? Because I think they're hard, and there are not that many of them, surprisingly enough. Like, I started looking, and I was like, man, I keep looking for crossovers, and all I find are the other one, the Fusion Fix. And I'm trying to find Type A crossovers, and they're a lot rarer than you'd think.
Well, I'd say, personally, they're actually kind of my favorite type of crossover. I mean, it is it is difficult, as you said, but I think crossovers in general are. A lot of times it seems like people just basically found two things they liked and mashed them together without really thinking about how. And making a good crossover fiction that keeps both universes intact and actually has the characters and worlds interacting in such a way that's believable, it's really difficult, but really impressive when done right. So I guess somewhat of a love-hate relationship in that there's a lot of it that's just not that great, but when it's done well, it can be done really freaking well.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. What do you think, Psychic?
Well, I really like them, but I think in a lot of ways they're hard to do right, because a lot of people have it, person X meets the opponent, they become friends forever, and no actual plot happens. You got to be able to write both sets of characters. But if you can pull it off, they are excellent. Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to discuss what you've written. So first off, a lot of people are probably wondering, you don't know, you've never even heard of the Dresden Files before. You might have heard it a couple times because it's the internet and nerds love that series to death for good reason. The Dresden Files is a book series. The 13th one just came out, I believe, a year ago, and the 14th one will hopefully be this year. It's about a professional wizard in Chicago, and it's an urban fantasy series, and it basically takes place in quote unquote our world. Everyone thinks he's crazy because he's in the yellow pages under wizard, and he's this really snarky. Basically, it's a detective story with magic, and it pulls from all these different mythos, and it's really, really good. That's like the best way to describe it. It just has fantastic characterization. The narration is beautiful. Everything about it is just really well done. And the Dresden Fillies, by Psychic here, is basically one of the main ideas of the Dresden Files, is that there's this world that most of us would refer to as the spirit world, and he calls it the Never Never. And it is a plane of existence beside our own. And it's all about ideas made form instead of actual matter. So when you go there, you could have places that are tens of thousands of miles apart, but because they thematically work together, you could walk for maybe a mile and end up getting to that other place in the real world. But at the same time, the Never Never goes to other places, other worlds beyond our own. So the idea is that Dresden one day is going through the Never Never, gets off the path, is forced to emerge wherever he shows up, and lands in Equestria. And it's just it just basically perfectly all the main six are perfectly in character. Dresden is literally perfectly in character. I mean, I used to say the second in False Masks when it's like I can't tell anyone about Equestria because if I do, then this perfect idyllic paradise will be ruined. And no, it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that I don't want anyone to know that I'm friends with a bunch of colorful ponies.
That does in fact sound like something you'd say.
Yeah. And then the much quicker plot synopsis. The other thing he's written that isn't a crossover, Order and Chaos, is a really interesting fic. It's Twilight is hanging out with Celestia and wants to know the story behind Discord. And it's basically trying to give a backstory to Discord. And it's actually a pretty interesting one. I know it's different from most people's. Most people like to write it so Discord is like Celestia's lover. And I can kind of see the logic behind that, but the way Psychic here did it, where actually that Discord was originally Luna and Celestia's brother, and the whole storyline about everything they had to go through was really interesting, and it just ended recently, and I'd encourage anyone to go read it because it is actually really good, and I almost kind of prefer, I wanted it to become canon now. It's one of those things of fanon that I'm just going to have in my mind from now on. But that's how it worked. Sam, for the purpose of this podcast, has read the Dresden Fillies, at least all of Strange Friends. I'm not sure how much in False Masks.
I haven't actually started False Masks yet, but I did get all the way through Strange Friends. Well, I guess there's a bit of story there. It basically just, I was told that this podcast was going to be covering the Dresden Fillies, and I had heard of the Dresden Files, hadn't read them, and I'm like, okay, well, I should probably give the fan fiction a read, know what I'm talking about. And I just tore through it. I mean, every chance I got when I was at my laptop and didn't have any obligations or anything, I just keep reading it. I mean, I really love that I read his character. I was hoping as I was reading it, please say he got this character really right, because if so, I'm going to love these books. And so it actually inspired me to get a hold of the books. And so the reason I haven't read False Masks yet is simply because I finished and immediately found the first book of the Dresden Files and actually just finished that the other day. So thanks for getting me into that series. Seriously, it's fantastic. I was very impressed as I was reading the actual book, how much you had just completely nailed that character.
Next, we're going to talk about either probably just updates to ones we're currently reading, updates to Pony Fics we're currently reading, or if you guys have read anything recently. That's just a new fic that just came out. Be a good time to talk about it. So actually, I'll start with Sam. Anything that you read update?
I gotta just be honest and say at the moment, not in particular. I've actually needed to get more into the fan fiction scene recently, and most of the stuff that I've been reading has been complete like this. At the moment, in terms of updating ones I haven't really read, you're gonna have to recommend me some. I will.
Trust me. What about you, Psychic?
Well, Rorschach and Equestria had just updated here recently, and, I've been reading through that.
I see that on Equestria Deal. I go, no way, I'm not reading that.
It's good.
I don't like Rorschach, though.
I was going to say, I wasn't a big fan of Rorschach either, but I really like what Ex Nihilo has done with him.
All right.
He really handles him well. I'll
put it on my list. Just so you know, there's a folder in my bookmarks that is unread fics, and it is about 40 large right now. So it's like, I'll add that to it. So it's just like, I'll get there eventually. What I've read that's updated, actually two big things. 2 chapters of A World Without Rainbows, which I was really happy about because I think I mentioned last week, I've really gotten to enjoy that one. And 2 chapters in a row, I was like, whoa, what the hell? Just out of nowhere? And then 1 chapter of Sweetie's Mansion just happened, which the author of that was on last week, and I was like, every time that updates, I'm always like, I finish and I go, they're not the longest chapters I've seen, but there's at least in pony fandom, they might be the longest chapter per words per update. And whenever I finish one, it's like this, task of getting through all of it. Then I get to the end and I go, what? I want more. Why did you do this to me?
See, that's one I haven't picked up.
I definitely recommend it because you'd think from just the title and what you'd hear about it, he'd just take the game's Louise's Mansion, just put Sweetie in it and just change he actually expanded the plot a lot, and he expanded so much, and that's the reason I read, that's one of the first fanfics I read for this fandom, and it's what cemented for me Sweetie Belle being the best Cutie Mark Crusader of all. And it's just perfect. It's just amazing. Next, we'll talk about something that fits the week's theme, a fic of some kind that is a Type A crossover. I'll go first, Turnabout Storm. Some people will think I'm cheating here. I don't, because it was originally conceived as a fanfic. It's a long it was like either start off as a radio drama or a fanfic, and then got turned from one to the other, and then into a game, and now into a animation, and it's a crossover between the Ace Attorney universe and ponies. And it's amazing. It's basically Rainbow Dash is accused of murder, first murder in Equestria in quite a while, and they need an attorney, and all the normal attorneys turn him down, so Twilight summons Phoenix Wright from his universe. And it's one of those interesting things where I actually know a lot of people who were into one fandom and got into the other through this, simply because it's really well done, it's fully voice acted. It's really the writing on both sides is perfect. Phoenix's narration is perfect for the series. Like, it just seems like some stuff Phoenix would say, but everything else is completely My Little Pony humor. Like when Apple Bloom is testifying in court, it is hilarious. Cutie Mark Crusader witness testifier. It's a really, really well done production. It's sad. Apparently, originally she was going to make, he or she, I don't know the gender of who's in charge, they were going to make a sequel, but people have been going on there apparently and posting, like, oh yeah, I just hate this person's voice and stuff like that, and they've been getting so much of that they're going to finish Turnabout Storm, but they're not going to do a sequel, which I think is really
that's
sad.
Too bad.
I know. Sam, what do you got?
Well, you stole my main one, you jerk. I also I've loved the Phoenix Wright games for ages, and so when I found out that, as I said before, I'm kind of wary of crossovers, and but even then, when I saw that, I was like, that could be really awesome, and it is. And I agree, I was very depressed to see so many people have apparently been so negative about it. But yeah, well, when it comes down to it, I'm still actually working in. Honestly, this fan fiction, the Dresden Phillies, kind of renewed my faith in crossovers, and I'm going to be checking more out. But before then, I really hadn't been reading them, hadn't had very good experiences with them. But between this and Turnabout Storm, there is some stuff out there, so I'm going to be needing to read more. But for now, it's mostly, Turnabout Storm. That was a brilliant one. I love it.
All right, Psychic?
Well, like I said, Rorschach Mystery is great, and another really good one is Whip and Wing, classic Indiana Jones mixed with Daring Do.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm dead serious.
Yeah, that I need to read.
That sounds pretty cool.
If I had to choose a favorite note, it'd be this old one I actually originally found on FemFiction called Nine Knackered Souls, which was Red versus Blue crossed over
What?
with.
Oh my god, I've seen that. I've
No
read
way.
that. I got like halfway through or something, and I guess I just wasn't liking the way they were writing Wash's character. Besides that, it was hilarious.
Wait, okay,
Yeah.
What was that called again? I need to find that.
Nine Knackered Souls. The Red versus Blue team are turned after Revelation. Oh, it was Revelation. After Revelation, in the Red versus Blue storyline, they all get sent to the Pony Universe, or turned into ponies. And Griff, Griff and Tucker are both Pegasi, and Tucker will not stop hitting on Rainbow Dash. And Griff keeps calling her gay. He keeps trying euphemisms for gay for her. It's hilarious. It is really good. I cannot believe I did not think of that.
Okay.
And then the last thing before we wrap up is non-pony fix that fit the week's theme. Because if we just have podcasts just for only pony fix, like there's so many, but at the same time, reaching out beyond our fandom helps a little bit. And I have the best. I don't care what anyone else brings. Mine, I'm pretty sure, just blows out of just because it's a crossover. I'll just start with one of the fandoms, Doctor Who.
Oh.
It's the 10th Doctor. It's right after, was it The Runaway Bride, I think was what it was called, the first appearance of Donna Noble. So he has no companion, and when he goes in the TARDIS, he does what he usually does. He just goes, I don't really care, send me somewhere interesting. And when he does, he lands on this planet. Looks a little old westerny, he's not really sure. So he goes to the nearest bar and gets the crap kicked out of him because he's wearing a brown coat.
Yes.
For you see,
The
The Man with No Name is a crossover between Doctor Who and Firefly. It is...
I need to read this.
It is...
That is the best idea that I've heard since Red versus Blue and My Little Pony crossover.
It's perfect. And the best thing about the whole thing is both the descriptions and just the talking, both for the main characters of Firefly and for 10, you're able to perfectly visualize and hear exactly what's going on in that actor doing it. Like, you just imagine David Tennant doing all of this stuff, and it's just like, this is hilarious and perfect. And, like, all the character interactions are, like, River really, it takes place after Serenity. River gets along with the Doctor, but he's just kind of creeped out by her. And Mal and Zoe are both like, I have no idea, because this guy gives me a really weird vibe. And Kaylee loves the Doctor. She's just like, this guy is awesome. I have to hang out with him. Which means Simon is completely jealous and is just angry at him the entire time.
Wow.
And he's confused. What's really interesting is how they weave the two universes together. Where basically they say that, in Firefly, it's like Earth got used up and they left. The idea is that those people who left were just overreacting to a cataclysm. Everyone thought the Earth was going to be destroyed. But it actually managed to pull back and was saved on the brink. And so after that is when Earth made extraterrestrial contact and became, the galactic superpower, Earth Empire that you see in Doctor Who. So, and they never knew what happened to those people who had left. and it turned out they'd formed the Firefly universe.
Nice.
Wow. Yeah, they actually tied that in pretty well, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I love... Oh, really quick, I haven't seen it. I haven't looked hard for it, but I just want to say, if anyone can point me to a good one, I've always thought that Doctor Who and Dresden Files needs to be crossed over at some point. The Doctor needs to be looked at with the site. There's just so much opportunities for stuff to happen with that kind of crossover, I think. And in fact, the only thing that wouldn't work about that is it's kind of non-canon. There's an RPG book for Dresden Files that's amazing because it's written as a side character in the story wrote it to help educate everyone. It's like, oh, it's just an RPG book, but it's actually, the actual how everything works. And so there's that character, and then Harry and Bob all have little notations on the side, and there's a bunch of references to stuff, and there's one Doctor Who reference. But that thing isn't canon anymore, so I think the crossover could still work. Sam, what do you have? Oh, there it is.
Yeah, I looked it up while you were talking about it. So, apparently only a couple, and one of them is in Spanish on fanfiction.net. But there you are. Take a look.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Oh, wait, one of them was 11th Doctor. Oh, God. That's the one I have to read.
Well, I guess I got to be completely honest again and say that, doing this podcast and reading these fan fictions is what's gotten me back into fan fiction in the first place, especially crossovers. And so, apologies, but I don't have much to add to this. Didn't have too good of an experience with them, but you can bet I'll be checking some of these out for sure. These are fantastic ideas.
Do not worry, young Padawan. We will educate you soon.
So you shall.
Then in the way you shall.
Psychic, want to close this off? Yours?
Okay. Mine's actually another Firefly crossover, but this one is with Dresden.
Oh my God!
I'm looking this up now too. Okay.
What?
What's this called?
Yeah, it's called Dresden Meets Tam. River gets stranded in the past. Guess where?
Oh, okay. Yeah, this needs to be read.
Oh wow.
It should still be on fan fiction. It's been a while since I read it, but when you ask for non-pony crossovers, that's immediately what leapt to mind. They do some stuff from River's perspective, and it's really interesting the way they write her. They get inside her head pretty darn well.
That's always tough. It's like I do enjoy seeing people try to tackle that. Like I've seen a couple fics try to go in Pinky's head. And I've only seen a couple of them really work, where it's weird, but not like ridiculously over weird. Like it actually seems that's how her thought process goes. Actually, now we're talking about it, I just remember I haven't read it, so I don't know if it's actually good. I just know that it exists. There's another Doctor Who Firefly crossover that it's Captain Jack meets up with the crew. That's it. That's just this idea. It's just somehow he gets messed up with them, and. I don't know if I'll read it because I like Captain Jack, but I also haven't watched Torchwood, so I don't know. But still, it sounds interesting. So, Before we sign off for the night, really quickly just want to say, if anyone has any comments or questions, anything, feedback, I would love some feedback. If you'd like to help us by becoming an audio editor, that would be really useful. Anything at all.
Certainly make your job a lot easier, I guess.
Yeah. Just email the Brony Bookclub at yahoo.com. That's the Brony Bookclub at yahoo.com. All right, that ends episode 2. You've been a really good guest, Psychic. It's been fun talking with you.
No, it's good hearing from you.
Sam, I think for a good first episode for you, I think it's gone pretty well.
Yeah, I'll just need to catch up on a little more of this stuff. And wow, have you given me a reading list?
I'm
going to be busy for a while.
Copperfield, Dresden.
All right.
Conjure it by your own
see you
risk.
guys next week.
When
Bye.
things get strange, when what goes bump in the night flicks on the lights, when no one else can help you, give me a call. I'm in the book.